The great hall of Blackmore Ridge had never looked so beautiful. Tall windows let in soft morning light. White flowers covered every pillar. Silver ribbons hung from the ceiling like threads of starlight. Hundreds of guests filled the wooden benches, whispering with excitement. Today, King Damian Vane, the Alpha King of the Northern Pax, would be married. Damian stood at the altar in a black coat with silver buttons. His shoulders were straight, his face calm, but his eyes held no joy. He had agreed to this wedding, not out of love, but out of duty. 3 years ago, he had lost the only woman he ever loved during the border wars. Since that day, he had closed his heart. He ruled his kingdom with strength and fairness, but he had stopped believing that love was something meant for him. His council had convinced him that peace between the Pax depended on this marriage. Lady Seraphine Cole, daughter of a powerful beta from the Eastern Territory, was the perfect choice. Her family controlled trade routes that Blackmore Ridge needed. Marrying her would end years of tension between the two Pax. Damian did not love her, but he respected the peace she represented. So he agreed, telling himself that duty could replace desire. Seraphine, on the other hand, wanted this wedding with all her heart. Not because she loved Damian, but because she loved the idea of being queen. She was clever, beautiful, and ambitious. She had spent years learning how to charm the court, how to smile at the right moments, how to appear humble while planning her rise to power. Today, she would finally become the queen of the strongest pack in the north. As the doors of the hall opened, music began to play. Seraphine walked down the aisle in a white gown embroidered with silver thread. Her dark hair was pinned with a crown of small white flowers. She smiled at the crowd, her eyes shining with triumph. Many nobles admired her beauty and grace. She looked every bit like a queen. Damian watched her approach, his expression unreadable. He tried to feel something, excitement, comfort, even simple happiness. But there was nothing, only a quiet emptiness, the same emptiness he had carried for 3 years. Seraphine reached the altar and took his hand. The priest began the ceremony, speaking of loyalty, unity, and the sacred bond between mates. Damian listened, though the words felt distant, like sounds heard through water. He glanced at Seraphine, who was already looking at him with a satisfied smile, as if she had already won something important. The priest asked Damian to speak his vows. He opened his mouth to begin the words he had memorized the night before. Before he could speak, the back doors of the hall opened. No trumpets announced it. No guard called out a name. There was only silence, and then the soft sound of footsteps. A young woman stepped into the hall. She wore a simple brown healer's cloak, dusted with dried herbs. Her hair was tied back loosely, a few strands falling across her face. She was not dressed for a wedding. She was dressed for work. In her hands, she carried a small wooden box filled with medicine, meant for a guard who had been injured the night before. Her name was Wren Ashford. She had never planned to enter the great hall that morning. She had no invitation, no reason to attend such an important event. She was simply doing her duty, delivering medicine as she did every day. But as she reached the hallway outside the great hall, something strange happened. A pull, deep and unexplainable, drew her toward the doors. Her feet moved before her mind could stop them. She told herself she would only glance inside for a moment, then leave quietly. But the moment she stepped through the doors, the entire hall seemed to shift. Damian felt it first. A sudden, powerful pull in his chest, as if something ancient inside him had woken up after a long sleep. His breath caught. His wolf, silent for 3 long years, suddenly roared to life with a force he could not control. He turned his head toward the doors, and their eyes met. Time seemed to stop. Wren froze in place, her heart pounding. She did not understand what was happening, only that something powerful had locked onto her, pulling her toward the man standing at the altar. A warmth spread through her chest, gentle yet overwhelming, like sunlight breaking through clouds after a long winter. Damian's hand slipped from Seraphine's without him even realizing it. He took a step forward, his eyes fixed on Wren, as if she were the only person in the entire hall. The golden glow of a mate bond shimmered faintly around them, visible to anyone with wolf blood. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Whispers spread like wildfire. "That is the mate bond," an elder murmured. "It cannot be denied." Seraphine's smile vanished. her hands curled into fists at her sides. She turned to see what had captured Damien's attention, and her face went pale when she saw the young woman standing near the doors. Ren wanted to run. Everything about this moment felt wrong. She was not dressed for a royal wedding. She held no title, no family name of importance. She did not belong here, among kings and nobles. Panic rose inside her, and she took a step back, ready to disappear into the hallway. But Damien moved first. He stepped away from the altar, ignoring Seraphine completely, and walked down the aisle toward Ren. His pace was steady, but his eyes held an intensity that silenced the entire hall. No one dared to speak. Even the priest stood frozen, unsure of what to do. When Damien reached her, he did not say a word at first. He only looked at her, as if trying to understand how she could suddenly mean so much to him after only a few seconds. Ren looked up at him, her breath shallow, unsure whether to bow, apologize, or flee. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I did not mean to interrupt. I was only delivering medicine." "You did not interrupt anything," Damien said quietly. "You completed something I thought was already broken." Ren's eyes widened. She did not understand the weight of his words, but she felt the truth in them, deep inside her chest, where the strange warmth still glowed. Behind them, Seraphine's fury finally broke free.
"This is absurd," she shouted, storming down the aisle.
"You cannot abandon our wedding for some servant girl who wandered in from the streets." The hall stirred with murmurs of agreement and disagreement. Some nobles looked scandalized, others intrigued. Seraphine's father, seated in the front row, rose to his feet, his face dark with anger. Damien turned to face Seraphine, his expression calm but firm. "The mate bond does not lie, Seraphine. You know this. Every wolf in this hall knows this. I did not choose this. It chose itself the moment she walked through those doors." Seraphine's chest rose and fell rapidly. For a moment, panic flickered across her face before she masked it with anger again. "Then break it," she demanded. "Deny it. You are the Alpha King. You can choose duty over instinct." "I already tried that once," Damien said. "I told myself duty was enough. But this is not something I can deny, not from myself, not from my people, and not from the goddess who granted it." Seraphine's eyes darted toward Ren, sharp with resentment. Then, unable to hold back any longer, she said something she had hidden for months. "I knew," she snapped. "I knew you already had a mate bond forming somewhere in this kingdom. I felt echoes of it during our courtship, faint but present. I hid it, because I wanted this crown. I convinced myself it would fade if we married quickly enough." Gasps spread through the hall. Even her own father looked shocked by her confession. Whispers turned into open murmurs of disapproval. The alliance she had worked so hard to build began to crumble in front of everyone. Damien did not look surprised. He simply nodded, as if her confession confirmed something he had already suspected. "That is why the goddess sent her here today, in silence, without announcement, so that no one could plan around fate, not even you." Seraphine's face crumbled, first with anger, then with quiet defeat. She realized that no matter what she said next, the outcome would not change. The crowd had already seen the truth. Her father, embarrassed and furious, took her arm and led her out of the hall, her ambitions dissolving before her eyes. The hall fell into a heavy silence once again. All eyes turned toward Damien and Ren. Ren, still trying to understand what was happening, looked at Damien with wide, uncertain eyes. "I am not who you think I am," she said softly. "I have no family name worth mentioning. I grew up an orphan, raised by an old healer on the edge of the territory. I know nothing about kingdoms or politics." "None of that matters," Damien said gently. "The bond does not choose based on titles or wealth. It chooses based on truth." An elder stepped forward from the crowd, studying Ren closely. His eyes narrowed as if recognizing something familiar in her face. "Child," he said, "what is your family name?" "Ashford," Ren answered quietly. "Though I know little about it, my mother died when I was very young." The elder's expression shifted, filled with quiet astonishment. "The Ashford bloodline," he murmured. "I thought it had ended during the war." Damien turned to him sharply. "What do you mean?" The elder explained that the Ashford family had once been respected healers, connected to the royal bloodline generations ago, before a tragic betrayal during an old war caused them to be exiled and forgotten. Their name had faded from history, buried beneath years of silence and shame. Ren listened, stunned. She had never known anything about her family's past. She had always believed she was simply an orphan, with no significant history. Now, standing in the middle of a royal hall, she was learning that her bloodline was tied to secrets far deeper than she ever imagined. Damien felt a strange connection settle deep within him. He remembered whispers from his childhood, stories about a healer family lost during the same war that had taken his first love. Perhaps fate was not cruel after all. Perhaps it had simply taken a long, quiet path to bring the right pieces together. He turned to Ren and offered his hand. "I know this is overwhelming," he said. "I know you did not choose this, but I am asking you, not as a king, but as someone whose heart just recognized yours. Will you stay? Not because tradition demands it, but because something greater than tradition brought you here today." Ren looked at his hand, then at the sea of faces watching her, waiting for her answer. Fear still lingered inside her, but beneath it, she felt something steady and warm, something that told her this moment, strange as it was exactly where she was meant to be. Slowly, she placed her hand in his. The hall erupted into quiet murmurs of amazement, followed by soft applause from those who understood the significance of what they had just witnessed. The golden glow around them brightened for a moment, before settling into a calm, steady light, sealing the bond completely. The priest, unsure of the etiquette for such an unexpected turn of events, cleared his throat and asked if the ceremony should continue. Damien looked at Ren, silently asking if she was ready. She nodded, though her voice trembled slightly. "I do not know the first thing about being a queen," she admitted. "Neither did I know the first thing about being loved again," Damien replied. "We will learn together." The ceremony continued, though it looked nothing like the one originally planned. There were no rehearsed vows, no polished speeches. Instead, Damien spoke honestly about loss, healing, and unexpected hope. Ren spoke simply about gratitude and the strange, quiet courage it took to accept something so sudden and so real. By the end of the ceremony, the hall that had been filled with tension and scandal only an hour earlier was now filled with quiet warmth. Even those who had doubted the situation could not deny the genuine emotion between the new king and his true mate. Outside the hall, news spread quickly through the kingdom. A wedding had begun with one bride and ended with another, not through scandal or trickery, but through fate itself walking silently through the doors when no one expected it. The people of Blackmore Ridge spoke of it for years afterward, calling it the day the goddess corrected a mistake before it could be made. Ren's life changed completely from that day forward. She traded her healer's cloak for the responsibilities of a queen, though she never forgot where she came from. She continued to visit the sick and injured herself, insisting that her new title would not change her heart. Damien, watching her kindness spread throughout the kingdom, found himself falling deeper into a love he never thought he would feel again. Seraphine eventually returned to her homeland, her reputation damaged but not destroyed. In time, she found her own path, far from the crown she had once desired so desperately. As for Damien and Ren, their story became a quiet legend among the Packs, a reminder that true bonds could not be forced, planned, or hidden. They could only be recognized, sometimes in the loudest moments, and sometimes in complete silence, when someone least expected to change a king's fate forever.